All right, I'd now like to have some discussion amongst the board, and in order to do that, I've been sent a memo from Ruth Kaplan, who couldn't be with us today, and I'm going to read it into the record as I promised her I would. Dear Maura, I'm unable to attend the next BESE meeting scheduled for Tuesday, January 26th. I would ask that the following be read into the record of the meeting as it pertains to the discussion of the Gloucester Community Arts Charter School. At our November 17th meeting, when it first came to light that the Inspector General was involved in an investigation of the awarding of a charter to the Gloucester Community Arts Charter School, I moved to delay taking a vote regarding non-revocation of the school's charter pending the outcome of that investigation. That motion failed by a vote of 8 to 2. A subsequent motion not to revoke the charter of the school passed by a vote of 8 to 2. I believe at the time that the grounds existed to revoke the charter of the school, not necessarily because of any material misrepresentation on the part of the charter school's proponents, but rather because of the integrity of the charter approval process. It had, in my eyes, been clouded by the appearance of impropriety in the process. Indeed, Governor Patrick, who twice called upon this board to reconsider our approval process and vote, supported, along with Secretary Revel, an amendment to the recently enacted Education Reform Bill to rescind the charter of the Gloucester Community Arts Charter School on the grounds that the continued existence of the charter was not in the best interest of the school or the community, and that's the letter that's already been talked about to Representative Ann Margaret Ferrante of January 5th. I further agree with the points made in Secretary Revel's letter that the opinions of the IG set forth in this report add to the local concern over the process and transparency that led to the charter school approval and leaves doubt as to the validity of the grant of the charter to the charter school. I therefore urge the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education to rescind the charter of the school and allow it to reapply for reconsideration. I would hope that this process could occur in an expedited fashion. Whatever the board decides today, I want the record to reflect my deeply held concern that the integrity of the board's charter approval process has been seriously damaged and can only be restored by a reconsideration of granting of the Gloucester Community Arts Charter School charter. Sincerely, Ruth Kaplan. You also have in your packet my memo to you all of January 8th, in which I put forward my strong belief that in light of the Commissioner's response to the Inspector General's report, in the absence of any action by the legislature, there are no grounds to reconsider the board's original vote to approve the charter and subsequent affirmation of that vote. I'd now like to open it up. Yes, Secretary Revel.
Madam Chair, since a good deal has been made of the letter that I wrote on behalf of the governor, I thought I'd also, knowing that Ruth's letter was coming, enter into the record the following statement. In the midst of the debate over the recent education reform legislation, I wrote a letter on behalf of Governor Patrick in support of an amendment to the bill which would have revoked the charter to the Gloucester Community Arts School. I wrote this letter to express the governor's view, which he's held for some time. He has expressed the belief that the divisions and doubts in the community merit a new beginning to the process. In the same letter, we acknowledge that the board has determined that it was legally constrained from severing the existing contract to restart the process. Consequently, it seemed to the governor and to me that the best route to resolving the dispute, to healing the community, was to ask the legislature to lift the process from the board, to nullify it, and ask the board to start over. The legislature, having considered a revocation amendment proposed by one of its members, ultimately decided not to revoke the charter. Consequently, the board is in the same position as it was when we voted on November 17th to reaffirm our original endorsement of the GCAS charter. That is, as council has repeatedly advised us and continues to advise us, we had and now have no legal grounds for revocation. This is a complex and agonizing situation. I believe that a do-over of the process would, in fact, relieve tension and doubt in the community about our process. At the same time, I believe our process, while not perfect, was fully legal and appropriate. Nothing has changed my view on the facts or my experience in the process. Since the legislature has chosen not to revoke, I do not see that the board has any legal alternatives at this point but to stand behind our original decision. I believe that our new education reform legislation, with its provision for innovation schools and Horace Mann charter schools, presents an unprecedented opportunity for community leaders to use one of these vehicles to resolve this crisis. To do so would require extraordinary leadership from within the community. At the same time, this board, our department, and my office should do everything in our power to assist the community and the charter school to move forward and do their educational best for the children and community of Gloucester. Thank you.
Okay. Arnie?
Thank you, Maura. When we learned at our November board meeting that the Inspector General was going to be investigating this process, Ruth Kaplan and I both requested that we hold on a vote of not revoking until we heard the outcome of that report, so we could make a more, what we felt, informed decision about what our steps and options were to go next. And so here we are. And like many of you, I think we get a lot of public input into our deliberations here. And I certainly feel that the public faith in our process and our transparency, I would second what Ruth is saying here, is at an all-time low. Whether we agree or disagree with the specifics of the IG's report, and I thank Rhoda for her detailed response, the public does, the way this is played out in the public is that there is a lack of faith in our process in terms of reviewing charters going forward. I too supported the letter from Secretary Revel to the representative looking to repeal the charter granted to the Gloucester Arts Charter School because at this point, as he said, it does not appear in the best interest of the school or the community. At this point, there has been a number of discussions here about what our options are or aren't. In many ways, the legal response that we have heard from the outside attorney that was contracted with the department to give us advice focused on what the threshold for material misrepresentation would need to be of the charter school applicant in its proposal to us. And I think everyone agreed that that threshold, this process did not meet that threshold. The additional statement that outside attorney made was whether there was an issue with our process was a whole nother discussion as criteria that would be made to question the actual process and therefore the decision that we made in that process. Today we've been presented with an option from the Attorney General as well as the representative and senator about referring this matter to the Attorney General for advising. And I don't know at this point if I'm a minority on this board that would make that recommendation, but I'm putting that out as a discussion for us to have. Appreciate that the department is bringing their records policy for review by the Secretary of State to see that that policy and procedure meet the guidelines of what the state, I guess, requires, is what Rhoda was saying in terms of the issue about what documents are saved or not saved and that kind of thing. And as someone who has been part of many competitively placed RFP presses, I didn't particularly see a problem in the way that the department has handled it, but I appreciate that the department wants to bring it to the Secretary of State for a further review. I would reflect at this point that we should be bringing this matter to the Attorney General's office for advising because it is my perspective that we need to ideally have closure on this process, and I don't see closure coming by us doing nothing.